hosting today our Ask Me Anything session. I think we'll have like maybe half an hour. So please feel free to post your questions to the YouTube comments. And please let me know if there will be any problem with the broadcast. Okay. So just to double check, am I online already, I guess? Yeah, all set. Great. So we have a predefined set of questions, which were from ouch. Sorry. Nope. Okay. So we have the first one, which is basically do we plan to new graphic API support, and this is pretty. We hear it a lot because DirectX 12 were introduced a while ago, and we were also. We were also looking into DirectX 12, both DirectX 12 and Vulkan to be integrated into UNIGINE. But the challenge here is that, well, first of all, what's good about DirectX 12 and Vulkan, why everybody is waiting for them, is that you would not notice any visual difference between DirectX 11 and DirectX 12. But the main idea is performance, because both DirectX 12 and Vulkan, they are not that taxing on the CPU side, so they allows better access to low-level features of the hardware, thus making the life of experienced graphical engineers easier. But on the other hand, it means that for people who are not regular rendering engineer, working with Vulkan and DirectX 12 is a bit more challenging. And another reason why it is not included right now at the moment into UNIGINE 2 is backward compatibility, because we have a lot of legacy projects out there, and if we migrate to DirectX 12 and Vulkan right now, everything will be broken. And because we have the capability of custom shaders and materials in UNIGINE, and if you have them in OpenGL and DirectX 12, well, basically they will not be portable between different APIs. And also there are third-party libraries which are mostly OpenGL based, and we need to be compliant with them for some amount of time. So that's holding us back from migrating to new API, graphical APIs right now. But we have it in this works, so we have our research team working on some prototypes for a while. It's more than a year, I will say 2 or 3 years. We were definitely looking into Vulkan as a priority, and it will definitely be included in the UNIGINE 3 once it will be out. And we are at the moment at the early R&D stages for Unigine 3, and we still tend to have Unigine 2 as a mainstream version. Same thing with another question, which is also really hyped technology nowadays. I mean, NVIDIA ray tracing, and people are asking, when will NVIDIA ray tracing will come to Unigine? Well, we do support ray tracing in Unigine in a way because we have SSR TGI effect, which is our proprietary technology featuring screen space ray tracing for global illumination. And we have also a set of ray tracing based effects inside of Unigine, and they do not rely on hardware ray tracing acceleration. It works. Our implementation works on AMD or on older NVIDIA hardware, so we do not force users to upgrade their GPUs. And I do believe that for a moment it is a good solution, because a lot of our enterprise customers hate to change hardware very frequently, even though we work with a lot of simulation and training industry, and they have very powerful rigs, but they have them for X amount of years, so they tend to utilize what they have at the moment. While NVIDIA ray tracing is obviously available only for tiny fraction of hardware available on the market. So I think that at this moment it is just not there is not enough market demand for that in terms of install base, but definitely it is a very promising feature we are looking into. We have some experiments with it, and we just don't want to force people to be binded to some specific hardware at the moment. So because it was through the whole history of Unigine, we try to be as hardware agnostic as possible to give a freedom of choice to our users without the compromise in terms of visual quality. Once it will be available for more users, yeah, definitely we will add support in Unigine as well. Another popular question is, will Unigine give us a free version? Well, we have introduced a low-cost subscription plan for Unigine Entertainment edition of our SDK, and we plan to move forward later this year with introduction of community version of our SDK, which will be kind of limited in some functions, but still powering the same, have the same powerful Unigine core, and yeah, it will be free. So this is kind of very major step for us, because right now we feel that we are ready to open up our technology to wider audience, to gather more community members, and to do so we are willing to provide a special SDK edition for those creators who are willing to work either on non-commercial projects or on some smaller entertainment projects or something like that, while we will still be focusing on our enterprise user base who will be using the full power of Unigine features, which is basically the planet scale visualization and professional simulation and training features, and so on. So yeah, stay tuned. It will be. We've been preparing it for, I guess, almost a year, and it will come along with a huge set of improvements in terms of our tool set, because we spent the previous couple of years improving our editor. I'm really proud of what we've achieved. It is a lot of people switching from other engines to Unigine say that, wow, the switch is so smooth now because it's kind of the tool set has all the industry standard features and workflows, while it has some very nice features which other engines cannot provide. And so I'm really proud of usability and productivity of our editor these days. And we also had the goal for better programming workflow, and it's almost achieved because right now, as we speak, we have the team of UNIGINE working on 2.9 release, which is pretty much done, and we are just making some final repackaging and re-uploading the final checks and stuff like that. So it will be live tomorrow, if nothing critical will pops up. So and this release, I mean 2.9, has a lot of very important workflow changes for C# users, because we see a lot of users coming to UNIGINE from other engines, and a lot of them has C# background. And in terms of fast iteration of some features, it really makes sense, because you do not need to wait for long compile times, which are kind of normal in C++. And even though C++ is a first-class API, and it is a first-class citizen for UNIGINE, because we have a lot of customers who have very large code bases in C++, and internally we have the team of C++ developers, and still C# is kind of nice compromise in terms of speed and ease of use. So we introduced a lot of good changes in 2.9 for C#, both C# API workflow integration into the editor, integration with the IDE, and also the new component system, which is really easy to use. And yeah, you should check it out once it will be available. Just go to our website and try, just apply for a trial version. So yeah, it will be good, also very good addition to before the launch of this kind of community version, because we do understand that the community version means less, sometimes kind of less experienced, but maybe more creative community members. I don't know, but in terms of entry barrier, the lower is better. So we are working on both tools, and it is done, and programming workflows in order to increase efficiency of your team. And yeah, with 2.10 release, I believe that this work will be completed. And we also, as we speak of C#, we also use it as a kind of test bed at the moment. And once we will figure out that, yeah, the direction was right and the component system we introduced is a really easy to use solution, we will implement the same thing for C++ API. Well, that's the plan. Okay. The next question is, what's the plan it will be like? Will be in every SDK edition? Well, that's a good question, because UNIGINE has a capability of rendering the whole solar system for a while. We had this kind of features starting from, I don't know, maybe 7 to 8 years already, together with support for geo-coordinates and like operating in GIS systems. And but it has previously it had some limitations. Even though you were dealing with ellipsoid model and you could place your database wherever you want it on in world coordinates, in terms of geo coordinates, and you could operate with very large spaces in UNIGINE. But our tool set and our object terrain and object global terrain had a built-in limitation of working with, I would say, 10,000 kilometers by 10,000 kilometers scenarios in size, just because of the internal structure of object terrain global. If you were not relying on that object, you could potentially recreate the whole planet with different resolution, but it was not that convenient. It was not kind of out of the box solution. And last year we figured out that we definitely need to provide some sort of ready-to-use planet solution, and we started working on Object Planet as a kind of new high-level object, which had the ellipsoid geometry, and has 27, as far as I remember, levels of LODs, and so it can cover up very, very detailed data sets, starting from the satellite view down to the ground level. And it also supports different insets, so-called insets, which are areas of interest of different resolution. So you have, like, for example, you have the whole Earth database with, I don't know, maybe like 300 meters per pixel resolution, and you have your areas of interest where you have I don't know, several millimeters per pixel resolution, and it will work fine with Object Planet. So you can have multiple areas of interest across the planet, and it will work seamlessly. So once you will, for example, take off in New York and go to London or to Australia, you'll see the curvature of Earth. You will move along the not the straight line, but you'll be moving like along the Earth's surface, so it's kind of fair representation of the 3D planet, which is not possible in other engines, because most of the time, first of all, they work in only 32 bits of coordinates precision, while UNIGINE has 64-bit per coordinate precision. And also UNIGINE works with geo-coordinates and ellipsoid model, and it has the Object Planet object in the work at the moment. So we plan to release it as a kind of better version was already this month, but we decided to hold it for a while internally. We've recently run a very detailed survey through our existing customer base, and they provided very valuable feedback to us, and we decided to work a little bit more on more detailed and more complete integration of the Object Planet to the whole tool set, like our landscape tool, our editor, to introduce the convenient object manipulators, because you cannot just place objects around Earth as you do in a flat Earth approximation. It's a little bit more complex, and also improve integration with the cloud system and water system. So even though the planet itself is ready, we will keep working on it, I would say, for at least one release and maybe a couple more releases. So, but anyway, until the end of this year, you will be have the chance to test it out and see how it works. And as for the editions, it will be at the moment we plan to include it only in UNIGINE to theme. So it will be an exclusive feature for that edition. Maybe into engineering, but it is still to be decided because we are figuring out how to repackage the UNIGINE engineering at the moment. Okay, so another we have also live comments here. So yeah, one of them is like the question regarding the benchmarks. The question is a new benchmarking program in the works? If yes, when it's due and what will its features set be? We don't have the new benchmark in the works yet. It is planned for the next year. And we are looking into introducing some GPU heavy features for it, but I would not spoil it here, and yeah, you'll see. I guess we'll announce some more details next year. Also, one more question from the list is: will you add new import formats? Well, yeah, we have with 2.9 we have the experimental support for GLTF TL format, and we will also more likely work on both import and export formats, because we have our import subsystem which works both in editor and runtime, and at the moment it serves primarily for FBX container format, and we will add GLTF for both import and export features later on. In 2.9 there will be only import supported. As for other formats, we also work on them, and but it depends on the market demand. So the vast majority of our features are from our customers, so it's up to them to decide in most cases. Any plans for OpenXR? Oh, well, that's a good question, because the API is Zoo for VR is and basically VR, AR, whatever, is kind of disappointing at the moment, and we have very high hopes for OpenXR. We are looking into its integration, but it's a bit early because it's in the research phase. I don't know how it will work, or whether we will be satisfied how smooth it works or not. I mean, we'll see, but definitely we are keeping an eye on it in the short term, because obviously we have more and more HMDs being supported by UNIGINE. Well, for example, in 2.9 we have the integration with Vario VR1 headset, which is very cool, professional grade headset with eye tracking and bionic display. So and there will be more integrations later this year. So definitely we are looking into a good API to be cross-platform and supported by the majority of other players. Another question is: will Unigine get some high-level tools like node-based material and logic editors, GUI tools, etc.? At the moment, we are looking into a node-based approach to be used across materials, more likely particles, and maybe logic. So there will be basically some models in UNIGINE editor which will be featuring node-based editing, but it is not decided yet. It is in the very early research stage right now, because we are trying to balance out the approach where well, first of all, why Unigine material system is different from other engines is that because we have a lot of predefined materials, we have a lot of predefined features, and you do not need to assemble all the materials by hands in a node editor. If you want to, I don't know, change the UV mapping or just add emission feature to your material, you just in Unigine you just you click it at the checkbox, and that's it. And or just type a number for UV animation or anything else. So we have this kind of uber material system, and our mesh-based material has tremendous amount of features available right out of the box, and we believe that this is way more useful for newcomers and for people who are not that proficient in computer graphics. They have this kind of functionality right out of the box. And professionals still have the power of introducing their custom materials, but by means of coding in GLSL or HLSL. But as for node-based scripting, we're still experimenting with it, because we've seen a lot of horror stories where when node-based approach gone bad, and it's like a spaghetti code, and you cannot collaborate on it, you cannot merge any changes, it's very easy to become an uncontrollable mess. So in some cases it's not a good idea, but we're looking into it anyway. How do you see the future of Unigine script? As for now, Unigine script is supported to the full extent in Unigine, but we do not add any features into it. I mean, it's not in terms of API. API is synchronized between all the three languages available in Unigine. Like, you have the same features available in C++, C# and Unigine script. But as for the language itself, we do not plan to introduce any language features or tools, because we figured out that for the scripting solution, we will force C# from now on to be the main scripting solution, which can be iterated really fast, because you can change your code and see the changes really fast with it. While for heavy duty tasks, there is C++, of course. But anyway, through the lifetime of Unigine 2, Unigine script will be supported, but it will be not evolving anymore. Yeah, and we have some more questions, like any chance for return to Mac OS using Metal 2? Well, as for now, we identified that Mac OS is not kind of really a target platform for our existing customers, so we ditched it. And also, same thing happened in the beginning of Unigine 2 development, when we got rid of PlayStation, WebGL, Android, and iOS, and it helped us to progress really fast in terms of overall engine architecture and features, and to get to the point where we are at the moment. But as more and more enterprise customers are asking for some sort of web deployment and mobile support, we're looking into it, and we have the plan as for the mobiles to introduce some sort of Vulkan-based solution, and as for the WebGL, we are considering some several options. It's not decided yet at the moment. but definitely it will be supported for in UNIGINE 3, which is in the research stage, as I said, at the moment. But as for UNIGINE 2, we do not plan to add macOS or mobile support. Another question from the chat is how far is the editor API coming along? We like today we had a very heated meeting with our technical leads here in the UNIGINE studio, and they were discussing how to deliver editor API better. And this is a very challenging topic at the moment, and we have it as a kind of step-by-step approach. There will be, because if you're thinking about editor API, what exactly you want to achieve with it, there are like maybe three main cases. First is that when you want to just introduce, you are okay with UNIGINE editor, but you want to introduce some custom tool, like I don't know, you need some domain-specific tool to be added to your as a kind of project-specific plugin to simplify work of your team, specifically on that project, and you want to make it on your side. And in this case, you would be just fine with kind of additional UI window where you will place your widgets and handle your logic. And this is just one case when you have UNIGINE editor plus additional panel with your features. Another case is that like you have the same thing, but you also need to maybe modify some UI layout like in property tab, or you want to alter behavior of I don't know, nodes window, some minor changes based on object reflection. And the third case is when you want to have all the underlying infrastructure, like asset system, like selection under the Redis stack, and all the other features which are available in UNIGINE editor, but you want to completely replace UI with your own. Like you don't want to handle assets, you want to rely on existing subsystem, but just want to have your customized UI for some domain-specific editor, which you will, for example, ship to your end customers, so they can modify content for your application, for your engine-based application. And these three cases, they require different technical decisions, and with 2.10 release, we are planning to cover the first one, like you will be able to introduce your customized panels, and with further releases, we are targeting towards the way to completely revamp the UNIGINE editor with your own custom UI. It will have some limitations, and if we're talking about UNIGINE editor API, we are fine with exposing anything from it because it's well-structured architecture, and we have already internal APIs in place. But more likely it will be Qt and C++ technology stack, and UNIGINE framework as well. So it will not work, for example, for C#, unfortunately, but you will have the way to alter and introduce your own logic to the editor. And users who had experience of working with UNIGINE 1 had they loved the feature of UNIGINE 1 where they have they had the Unigine editor. It was completely written in a Unigine script. So you just forked it, and modified some UI files or something else, and here you go. You have your custom editor working on Unigine. And it was very easy because the functionality comparing with Unigine editor as it is right now, comparing to that older one, was previously we had like maybe 10% of features we have right now. And in terms of ease of use, in terms of usability and workflow efficiency, Unigine editor as it is right now is a huge step ahead comparing with Unigine 1. So unfortunately, that means that when you are trying to modify it, you will need to understand a little bit more complex thing, like 10x more complex than comparing to Unigine 1. But that's the price for feature set and progress. And we're pretty proud of Unigine editor code base. And even though it is very complex and feature-rich application, it's easy to extend, and I believe it will be just fine for users to introduce their own customized editors with upcoming releases of Unigine engine. Okay, so I guess I've answered your question regarding the API. So basically, Unigine editor as it is right now utilizes the same API which is available for the engine, because Unigine editor and Unigine editor and the engine, they are tightly connected, because editor need to call everything and to control every aspect of the engine, and it is doing so by the means of Unigine API, which is exposed to all the customers. And by doing so, we are double checking that our API is complete and bulletproof. So in terms of access, if you will be extending the Unigine editor, more likely you will have pretty much the full control over the editor UI. And as for the model and controller parts of this MVC pattern, I'm not quite sure. It's still to be defined, because maybe you will be able to introduce your custom asset types or some custom objects into integration, but we're still trying to figure out whether it will be useful and how to introduce it. All right, so another question is how Smart City Projekt will work with Unigine? Well, perfectly, because Unigine is working very good with huge crowded places, huge cities, and we have a number of customers who has introduced a mega city scale 3D visualizations of cities and happening with in real time with live connection to the telemetry or IoT data, and it's proven to be working. And mostly all of the customers were trying previously to use some game engines to do the same, and they were choking like with just a couple of blocks of the same detalization, while Unigine is handled it correctly, because it is optimized for handling very large open spaces and densely populated. As for the crowd simulation and city traffic, it was there was built-in models in Unigine 1 for city traffic. It was removed back then, and right now we are recreating them. It's still in the early stages, but we plan to introduce both human and like crowd simulation and vehicles traffic simulation to be available right out of the box in the Unigine. But it's scheduled to be like maybe 2.11 or something, because more likely in the beginning of next year. Will CDGML come in the future? As we work on the extended version of our landscape tool, which is used for procedural CD generation, procedural content refinement and generation, we definitely look into CDGML as one of the sources to be supported, and it's listed in the internal requirements list. I don't have the exact ETA for that yet, unfortunately. And we have a number of customers who already are looking for CDGML support in Hinge, so yeah, definitely it will be available at some point of time. UNIGINE provides only basic networking functionality. Will you improve this in the future? That's a bit complex question. Well, first of all, if you're talking about visualization, it can be pretty much universal. But if you're talking about networking part or physics simulation, it's hard to introduce a universal solution which will be as good, good for both fast-pacing shooters or for some industrial simulation or some RPGs and for different genres of applications. Because the efficient client-server system is really tied to the specific type of the application. So, and our current position is that we do not plan to extend the networking functionality in terms of multiplayer, but we have the API, C++, and C# to integrate the variety of networking libraries available out there, so you will be free to use one of them. And also in terms of professional simulation training and distributed network systems, we have pretty good support for SIGI, HLA, DIS networking protocols, which are used in professional simulation training systems, which are distributed over the network, and we will keep extending it even further. And we have also our multi-channel network synchronization system, which is available right out of the box in UNIGINE 2 SIM, which is used to synchronize network cluster to work on generating very huge and high resolution images, like for dome screens or for any highly immersive system where you have multiple PCs generating pixels together with frame-to-frame synchronization, which is a kind of normal thing for a professional simulation field. And we're already doing it quite good. What do you think about video games streaming hype? Will UNIGINE work in the cloud like Google Stadia? Well, UNIGINE is already working in the cloud, and we have a number of customers who has either some instances running in the cloud for machine learning, because UNIGINE is used in learning AI or verifying UI models, where basically AI is playing in a virtual environment, and with the feature of easy reconfigurability of this virtual environment, you have very, very nice training and efficient verification of AI algorithms. For example, for vehicle autopilot, or we have a very cool customer from Switzerland where they are training AI for flying taxis with UNIGINE, and there will be a very good announce like maybe next week or so regarding our closer partnership with this customer, and this is a pretty cool case as well. So as for the video game streaming hype, I don't know. Personally, I'm pretty skeptical about the lag, because even though there will be more and more 5G and maybe edge computing thing will help to reduce the lag, but up until now you cannot cheat the speed of light when you have your network communications, and the last mile problem will be still there, and you would need to place your CDN right next to the user in order to reduce the lag for fast-paced applications. So this is kind of challenging. For some applications, it is a good option. You have very sync client, and you can stream anything to it, and yeah, 100 milliseconds will be fine for a user. But in general, it's not a kind of universal solution. Do you plan to support streaming GIS data from the server? Yes, we do. We plan to include this feature into the new version of Landscape tool. But again, we have started a complete rewriting of Landscape, and we also the online sources connection is a kind of core feature which is already planned and analyzed, and the other important feature is revamped procedural rules system, which is also still in the research, but I'm really confident that we will roll it out, I guess, next year. So yeah, at the moment we are also looking into supporting more and more online sources, GIS sources, to generate really large scenarios and visualize them with Unigine, because Unigine is capable of visualizing the whole Earth and beyond, but it's impossible to populate these kind of spaces with by hand. So we definitely need to rely heavily on procedural content refinement and generation in this case, and this is kind of part of our strategy. All right, we have some more questions. More people joined the conversation. Okay, other plans for further node streaming improvements? Oh, well, as for the node streaming, they are already working pretty much okay. There was some questions regarding unloading of them and efficiency of that, but I'm not quite sure or right now at the moment, but yeah, we will figure it out, and maybe we'll answer to you on our forum later on. Do you have some fancy new technologies to fully utilize CPU with 10 plus cores? Yes, we do. With recently starting with 2.8, or 2.7.3 release. I don't really remember, but this year we introduced more multi-threading improvements, and like I've previously mentioned regarding the Vulkan and DirectX APIs, and one of the side effects of these APIs is that they helps to offload computations across the different cores, while for example OpenGL has a problem of being single-threaded by its design. And luckily we spent several months of very, like, it was a kind of dirty magic at some points, but we managed to get OpenGL working in multi-threaded mode. So even though it is not designed to work that way, we managed to still keep compatibility with older legacy systems and libraries, and to deliver better load for modern CPUs with multiple cores. Also, we have configurable data streaming system, which can utilize whatever you have on hand, so we can fill up any number of cores at the moment, depending on the nature of the Unigine-based application, or depending on its content. But just take a look at the configuration settings in the console settings regarding the number of cores, and you will see that a lot of subsystems can utilize the different cores, and we will keep pushing it even further. What is the status plans for supporting adaptive everything? We are, as far as I know, we do not support it at the moment, and as far as I remember, our lead rendering engineer said that we are not going to support it by some reason, but sorry, no details here. Another question is, regarding the commercial flight simulation software, which will be unit powered, like a computer to prepare 3D Microsoft Flight Simulation or explain. Technically, it's possible, and we have a number of customers who proved that it is technically possible. No problem, because we are delivering professional simulation systems with a higher level of digitalization. But in terms of consumer grade application, I'm not quite sure at the moment, because we as a company has no plan for that kind of application by ourselves, because we focus on the technology itself. But if there will be a willing customer who will be focusing on that commercial flight simulation software for consumers, we will definitely support him to the full extent. And with every release, I do believe that we are getting closer to that task, because we are adding more and more subsystems or content samples, or like with 2.9 release, we have like weather add-on system, which is really important for flight simulation, specifically for professional flight simulation and air traffic control systems, and we are engaged heavily in both of this. But also it can be really useful for some sort of consumer grade software. So I guess, you have the last chance to add some of your questions, but I'm out of my, I'm done with my list. And thank you for watching, and as I said at the beginning of the we have the question regarding Substance and Houdini. As for the Houdini, we have already integration in landscape tool, but right now we are trying to figure out whether it will be a good solution to extend it further, or replace it with a more programmers-oriented procedural rules system, because not everybody is acquainted with Houdini, and maybe some, I don't know, Python scripting or something, or C# scripting will be easier for procedural rules. But then again, as I mentioned before, as for the technology core for this procedural rule system, it's not decided yet, and we are gathering feedback from our customers which this solution will fit them better. As for the getting back to the 2.9, I already mentioned in the beginning of this broadcast that 2.9 is already done, and it's just a matter of repackaging the builds and uploading them to the developer unigine.com. And we are targeting our QAs super cautious, so they asked me to for one more day. So more likely it will be live tomorrow. And so 2.9 is already stable and ready to go. It's just a matter of delivering to customers. And with other updates, we will update our roadmap on the forum soon. And also, if you want to keep an eye on what we are doing, we will be talking more about some specific update features which will be which is already in 2.9 in our social networks. So if you have like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube account, you can just subscribe to our social accounts and get some extra hints on what's there. And also, I'm also urge you, if you are not a Unigine user yet, which is very strange, go grab your copy on unigine.com, and you can have either a free trial version, or you can subscribe to Unigine Entertainment right now, or you can apply for a commercial version of Unigine SIM or Unigine Engineering to our sales team. So that's it for today, and thank you for watching, and I hope it was useful to some degree. And maybe if there will be some feel free to add some feedback, so we'll understand whether to keep doing this kind of sessions later or not. Thank you.